And I am live. Welcome to Vlog Thursday number 346. UniFi competitors? That's the first thing I'm going to talk about. And actually, most of what I want to talk about here. This is a topic that I'm just want to blanket address. And this whole blanket addressing of the topic is because there isn't really an awesome, amazing UniFi competitor when you scope things down to a couple things. Specifically, do we have a self-hosted controller option? That is the number one thing that many of you commented when I did like the Alta video recently on their switches. By the way, I got some more Alta switches. They're sending them out to everybody. And, the Ingenious ones is another example, along with who else is there? TP Link. Now, I see these not exactly as competitors because it starts at that self-hosted controller. And we know TP Link is one of the only companies that does offer the self-hosted license-free controller. My problem with TP Link is the same as it always has been since I did the review of them previously. I don't trust them in security. Bottom line, I just don't have any confidence that they build a secure, well-tested product. Matter of fact, from the consulting that we've done, I always feel that they're a buggy product that resetting them fixes random things that we're not sure what caused. And I think they're okay. They're probably, um, you know, they're kind of strange in terms of the way they handle security, like not very well. I've reviewed some of their switches. I believe one of the switches I reviewed from a long time ago had the ability to do VLAN hopping, which I thought was interesting, right out of the box. And I'm like, well, there's security problems with these right out of the box. This is kind of the problem with the TP Link. I feel like they copied UniFi just enough, made the price just a little bit lower and stopped. Like that's as far as their innovation went at all. And this is one of those things where people just, point to the product, that product, but the whole cloud lock-in thing drives me crazy. And I know it drives a lot of you crazy as well. So it's just one of those things that I kind of think it's a non-starter for most people. And the reason why is because so many of us have been burned by the cloud. And the cloud starts here as either it'll always be free until it's not. And we can rewind a little bit. We'll go back a few years because it's not like I've been doing this just recently. I've been doing this for quite a while. And now, actually, let me turn my watch off because it's making noise. There we go. Forgot to turn off my distractions before I started. But you go back and Open Mesh was one of those devices that for a long time ago when UniFi came out and Open Mesh came out, I said, hey, let's check these products out. And I had deployed a couple of the Open Mesh, but I was like, I don't like this cloud only lock-in thing. But Open Mesh promised the cloud will be free forever. I should pull up the Wayback When machine and see if I could do that, because Open Mesh was one of the devices in the early days before. Well, I mean, I guess it's really popular now that devices do this, but Open Mesh had no local controller and no local admin option on the device, but the devices themselves worked really well. And you're probably thinking, Tom, I've never heard of Open Mesh. Yeah, they got big enough to get acquired and got rid of their free cloud and went to a paid proprietary service. So you kind of got burned on this. And I can swing it all the way back around because having the Alta switches and the Alta Wi-Fi, and I've done a review on the Alta Wi-Fi, and I'm playing with the Alta switches because I think the switches are pretty cool, but they haven't got me excited yet, but I have been engaging with them because they're working on the local controller option. And I told them you can excite me with your products all you want and all the features, but until there's an option where I don't feel locked in. Now, this goes all the way back to me reviewing some of the Cisco small business stuff. I've been kind of, playing with different ideas and different things and testing them out. That's why I wanted to talk to people like about the Cisco small business. I actually had for a moment, just a moment, hope. Just a little hope Cisco gave me that the Cisco small business stuff was going to be like, oh, this is great. They're going to give this dashboard. It gives you the first 25 device. I think it's 25 devices for free. It's Cisco. The fact that they offer anything for free that can be managed is amazing, until I realized just how bad the dashboard was, how goofy the Cisco products were. And then to top that off, I did that specific video just to talk about the end of life. Now, I'm happy that Cisco has an end of life policy, but that's a really short notice. And when you think about what we do at CNWR, with that company we merged with, the IT services we provide, we have to make a decision that is our long-term look at a client. So if a client says, hey, I need 30 switches, 40 switches, or more. They're going to make a capital investment. They're going to trust our expertise to install something. And if I were to install something from a company that goes away in a year, and I don't have any local way to control it or support it, I now have a problem that I may have told a customer to commit a $50,000 project, $100,000 project or more to a product that I can no longer support and no longer even log into if it's cloud only. This is what makes a lot of these companies go to things like Meraki, because Meraki may charge you through the nose, but I guarantee Meraki has a business model that will keep them in business. It's called, we will charge you through the nose. And if we didn't keep supporting the product, we wouldn't be able to keep billing you for the product. So there's our business model. And it's one of those things that I see people complaining a lot about UniFi and looking for the competitor. And it's a really hard nut to crack if you're a startup and you want to compete with UniFi, because who's going to fund you? Because funding requires, there's a lot of capital in building a hardware company. There's no doubt about it. So you go to your investors and you go, I need a bunch of money. I want to compete with those people. Oh, you want to compete with a company that has about a $10 billion market cap and massive market saturation and a whole mature product line and a distribution channel. Like, okay, let's throw some money at it. How are you going to get the money back out? I'm hoping to make enough sales to compete with them. Oh, okay. So you're going to charge licensing fees so we can have a recurring revenue model. And if you're not saying yes, your investors may not say yes either. You're kind of trapped in this. It's not an easy thing to have a startup not have a product lock-in model and get funding, because the people who are funding this venture would like to know how they're going to get their money back out of it. And this is why you're in a kind of circle when you try to have competitors. It takes a company making a really committed decision to say, we are willing to do this in order to overcome this. But this is hard, because if you're not going to sell licenses, that means you're going to try to saturate the market with hardware until you make your money back. And hardware is a low margin, because this is the irony of people thinking, like, the irony is probably not the right word. It's just when people look at TP-Link as a competitor, they're not much. I mean, they're not half, but they're a little bit cheaper than UniFi. And that little bit of margin that they're able to cut out from UniFi is enough to get people going, yeah, I'll choose this less secure device with fewer updates and way less documentation to save 10%. So when you're a hardware manufacturer, how do you even break into that market and do it at margin? That is, no margin means no future. No future means no future to pay back those investors that, gave you $100 million to start a hardware company to compete with them. So it's kind of a big circle of challenges in order to do this. And I haven't seen anyone who's really solved this problem at all. Even MikroTik, I think MikroTik's got a niche in the market. We see a lot of MikroTik in the market, and where we see it is always the same. It's in budget constrained areas. Lots of people in Europe use it. It's less popular here in the US, with the exception of, it is really popular in the WISP market. Now, the wireless ISP market loves MikroTik, but they love it because it's a pretty well-featured device with a lot of quirks. But once you get over the learning curve of the quirks, you figure it out and you go, hey, I can use this. It's budget friendly. And when I say budget friendly, it has to be very budget friendly for the wireless ISP market, because their margins are like this narrow across. So I get why there's a lot of popularity there. Back to the kind of mid-market, and where a lot of we dwell here with these servicing the small businesses, UniFi is a good fit for a lot of these. I wish there was some better options, just like everyone else does. And the home user market loves UniFi, because the other alternatives, the big player in the market, is going to be probably Meraki and Aruba. Those are the two I see the most used in the small business space. I think Aruba's not bad. I've reviewed them before. I thought about re-reviewing them, but they haven't added that many features, which is also kind of showing Aruba does hold true to having a free cloud. And I like that a lot, but not all. A lot of their devices do have local management, but the Aruba free cloud is so basic. I get it why it's free. They've certainly not put much effort into it. When I reviewed it, there was a few less features than there are today, but it's not great looking. It doesn't have a great UI. It gets the job done, which is probably adequate for most people, as long as you don't have any advanced use cases on there. And I think this is where I'm happy to see UniFi kind of pushing the use cases up a little bit more. But that's kind of my rant on UniFi of, why they are where they are is because they were willing to do what others were not. And because Rob Pereira and they built this model so many years ago, it is not easy to say, I want to start today. Even if you gave me $100 million to start a hardware company, I wouldn't know that that's enough to really compete with UniFi. And hence the problem, because it's not just competing with them, it's creating enough market saturation in an existing market. How do you offset the incumbent in the market and make enough margin to make a sustainable business without charging licenses? You kind of just go in a big circle. I'm hoping someone does it. I have a meeting scheduled with our friends at Alta. They have been in contact with me, and they've said this very clearly that they want to make a self-hosted option. They're really working. They want to do it right. And I absolutely hats off to them for wanting to do it. Makes me happy. I like the fact that they're trying to compete in that market. Are they there today? No. I don't know how long it'll take them to get there, but I absolutely would like to see them succeed. And I will talk probably at some point about their switches. I don't know if they're going to get a dedicated video, but I I set up one of them. I talked about it, I think, on my last live stream. We have more of them that we actually plugged in at the office. So there are, let me find the other one. I'll throw it up on the screen here. I mean, functionality wise, they absolutely work well. I actually now have the bigger ones in. I started with this one, which we tested for about a week. Worked fine. And we got a couple of the bigger, the 16 and 24 ports. And I like it where they're going with it. But, I just wanted to make a quick kind of 15-minute rant, me talking about UniFi, get people's thoughts. Because the other thing that kind of, I don't know where these people get this information, but there's a new trend in comments I'm seeing on my UniFi videos where people add the comment, oh, I think UniFi is getting rid of that self-hosted controller. I'm like, why? When is there somewhere you can link to me in this? And they never reply. It's almost like there's other people just wanting to tell me this, but they never offer that evidence of where did you hear such a thing? What makes you think they're getting rid of the self-hosted controller? I see this is a common thread of comments, but if anyone has proof, absolutely, I would love them to email it to me. I'd love to read up on this. I'd like to hear someone's theory on this. If you send it to vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com, I will absolutely read and probably reply that that's an interesting article. But I don't really see, like I said, UniFi's in a unique spot. That's why a lot of people like them. We do a ton of consulting on UniFi. I look at, me and Brett, our sales head of sales at CNWR, we're talking about the whole, UniFi stuff. And we were playing it back and forth. So like one of the big clients we sold, we asked the question, like, could we have sold this if we had Meraki? And the answer is no. The competitive price, and we made margin on this, by the way, so it's important. But if we wanted to make the same margin and sell him Meraki, for example, he may not have went with the bid because other people were selling Meraki. Selling UniFi to some of these clients, school districts, especially when you're looking at these really high licensing fees. High is subjective, of course. I mean, Meraki works. It's not a unworkable product, but it becomes, will you win the bid if someone else is doing UniFi? And these school districts we sold, these large warehouses we've done, I bring up I got to probably follow up with them again. I talked to the guy once and they're still using them, the 300 access point pros we installed like 4 years ago now. I think they've only had one of those devices die, maybe two. That's not a bad run for 4 years of being installed, and 300 of them at a medical facility that provides Wi-Fi throughout, 6 buildings. Roll that. You're not going to get that same total cost of ownership with some of the alternatives out there. So I don't know. It's just a lot to think about. Let me run through some of the questions here. UniFi versus Aruba Instant On. I functionally, as I said, the Aruba stuff worked, but I thought it was just really basic. But basic may be all you need, because that's one thing I always like to start with is let's talk about the use case, because you can make the debate, and people so frequently do, telling me UniFi is missing this feature, UniFi is missing that feature, and I'm like, yeah. And I could also make that same silly argument of, does the client need these features? And I say silly argument because I do the narrative or comparative the same. I say, all right, I need to go to work. I have a Dodge truck. It is a 2018, works fine, gets me to work. Do I need a Freightliner? Because it will definitely get me to work, just like that Dodge truck will, but it's not the ideal vehicle to drive back and forth to work in. I mean, Freightliner makes a great vehicle. It'd probably get more miles. It'll probably last longer than my Dodge truck if I just drove it back and forth to work, but it's not the practical thing. So if you line up the client use case of what does your client need, what is the needs that need to be filled, where and you also kind of have to think about future. Is there a need in the future that'll need to be filled? Okay, if the answer is no, great. Use the thing that fits those needs. You don't go, I need the one that has a million features, because there'd be people arguing, oh, come on, I need radius VLAN authentication on each port, and things like that. I'm like, does your client need that, or you want that? Or are you going to turn that feature on? I mean, I'll admit the Cisco has more features than some of the client needs, but that you start with the needs of the client and make sure the devices fit them. You have to think about it like that. That's just something really important from a perspective of, how you want to do these. If I seem a little bit distracted or noises, I have contractors building things at my house. Is the 16 light active PoE or passive? That's listed on their spec page. I don't have all the specs of every UniFi memorized, but good news, they have a website that has all the information on there. Sunny Florida. Did it pass already? I heard it was stormy Florida. Sadly, UniFi here in Brazil are expensive as Cisco, sometimes more. When I started using Ubiquiti in 2008, they had really good prices. Well, supply chain's been challenging. There are room for both solutions depending on the need. Roaming and shit suck on UniFi compared to Meraki and Aruba. Auto channel UniFi sucks. If those matter, you might need another solution. And Jason, you got to give me some Meraki so I can test this, because I don't have a roaming problem on the UniFis. The only thing I would say is that my MacBook seems to want to. It's slow to switch. All my devices, with the exception of my MacBook Air, switch really fast. The MacBook Air is a little bit slower to switch, and I don't know why. I think I'll make sure I'm going to test it, because I turned on fast roaming, and I don't think it's done that since I turned it on. But Jason, find me some Meraki so we can do a Tom and Jason debate about Meraki. For those of you who don't know, Jason Slagle is president of CNWR, the tech company we merged with. So yes, I'll give you a Wi-Fi phone and see how it works. Storm didn't hit Orlando. Cool. How about the Dodge truck versus the Kia one? That's closer discussion here. No one is bringing in Cumulus-based switches for hardware. Yeah, I mean, that might be, but I like Kia quite a bit. I think Kia makes a really good one, and Kia's got some good vehicles. There's no doubt that they aren't. I mean, they're a little bit less expensive than some of the domestic vehicles, but I think Kia's pretty good. UniFi doesn't manage client handles. Roaming decisions are made by the client. There's still things the UniFi devices, the Wi-Fi devices can do to make sure the handoffs are better, and the band steering works better. But it's a challenge. I don't know. I want to do some comparisons. We got to set up and get a couple Merakis, get a couple UniFi, put them in the same position, switch them on and off from each other, and see which devices hand over better. That's definitely something worth discussing and bringing up. Something else worth noting is this is going to be out soon. This is the new UniFi network application 7152. Everyone seems to be pretty excited about this. It's novel to me. This we've got pretty graphics, and I think, I don't know. I will say that UniFi's done a good job of making networking UIs look better, and that's a bar that they should all go for, everyone, because there's nothing wrong with having a good UI for things. Of course, the old school network people want a good CLI, and great. I'm not against CLI. I like CLI. My problem I always run into with CLI is getting more people to understand CLI. The reason we have the reason we're not writing an assembly language and we started having languages, more advanced languages, or the reason we have now really popular frameworks is not because, it's a better idea. It's actually in a lot of ways a bloated idea, but it allows more people access to getting these things done. These are what a lot of times a nice UI will do, is make it more accessible for people whose sole focus is not on a specific, very narrow task. So assembly language is great, but hey, most people are just going to write things in some type of framework and not have to actually learn all the assembly language code. And the same thing goes for networking. Not everyone's going to take the time to learn things and do it from the command line and get things really, detailed. They need a UI because they're daily focus. It allows me to have people that don't need that skill level just to get a VLAN set. And yeah, that's so I do appreciate and think there is a really good place for a good UI. Let's see, what do we got here? Does your company do phone systems, cloud or local? Familiar with 3CX and others? We don't use 3CX or free PBX anymore. We never did. I never did 3CX. We used to do a little bit of free PBX. I got away from both of them. We use a hosted cloud solution. Is there any good documentation on scaling up UniFi for large tenant multi-setups, the advice and split controller? Yeah, I've done videos called large UniFi deployments, and I base them on UniFi's documentation they have called large UniFi deployments and how to set it up. It's something, it's like, I think if you still type it into Google, I'm one of the top searches for that. It's pretty easy to find. I know if you search my channel for large UniFi, you'll find it. I have videos talking about what to set. You can tune the AP power, but once the tuning is properly done, the decision is made by the client. Yes. CLI on switches and routers is easy. That's a matter of opinion. Easy for me, not easy for everybody. Trust me. Just the concept of VLANs, even when they have a UI, is hard. The number of people that we do consulting with that have trouble getting UniFi set up with the UI is like, I couldn't get, and it's just the skill level. Like some of these people, I mean, it's not at all a dig on them. They're just not focused on this. So that's a really, I think making YouTube videos is easy, and other people go, man, that's a lot of stuff. And how do you work all these things? It comes down to what your skill set is. And easy is a really broad term, especially for CLI switch stuff. What's the point of having UI in the cloud? Really? Having UI in the cloud. Most people just want something to have one place to see it. This is, we have like 70 customers in our UniFi controller, and we can see all 70 customers from one self-hosted controller. That's the big thing. NDA compliant cameras. The Synology ones are NDA compliant or NDAA compliant. INO Synology cameras. So yeah, these I've reviewed them. They're good cameras. If you need something that meets compliance, I think the Synology surveillance station system is just nice. I have one of these cameras, so it definitely works well. All right, let's see. Actually, we'll show you. It's gonna some noise come through. These are you can see the contractor's got some stuff here. This is one of those cameras from Synology. It works really well. Oh, probably kind of loud. Can you mute this? Oops. Yeah, there we go. Click on a different one. There we go. New deck is getting built right now. All right. Share that. We'll leave this up there because that's prettier and doesn't make any noise. Let's see the other questions here. UI is great for first and second line support, simple, quick changes. CL is great for admins and automation. Yes. Now, if you're trying to build the automation system with Ansible or some type of scripting, obviously CLI is great. And here I do Linux administration. So do we at CNWR. So that kind of stuff is awesome for doing that. Jay from LearnLinux TV has an entire video about how he uses Ansible pull because he prefers that particular use case. And he's got a really slick way he does it, including all of the service accounts and everything. It's probably one of the best home lab setups using Ansible pull. It scales to some small businesses that may have some Linux use case in there. But if you learn all the command line stuff, building out your automations to make sure everything's set the same way across a large ecosystem, I mean, yeah, CLI is still the way to go. There's a reason the CLI isn't going anywhere. It just works really well for automation. I was on Synology, changing my approach and switching to Frigate. I think Frigate's a neat tool. I don't think it's not something I would use for a customer, but I think it's neat. Like for home lab, I think it's great. It's been on my list to test it. I went through, like, I know what it is. I've just never actually built one out. I think Techno Tim on his channel has one that he set up. He's used Frigate. There's another one he's used that builds some automation tools around cameras. But it's definitely, it's a neat project out there for home lab. I have my cameras tied together with and you can tie Frigate together with this. Let me pull it up. Where did it go? I'll throw it on this screen over here. Oops. I click the right keys. I've got my Home Assistant tied with my cameras, so it will put the last motion image on there, and then you can tie Frigate in here to go further to build your automations. Great for home. It's nothing I think I'd build commercially for a client because I wouldn't want to support it, but for home, I love it and I think it's great. Yes, I was getting Slack notifications. I should probably mute my Slack for a moment. It's midday, so I didn't mute Slack. Actually, I'm just gonna quit it. So nothing. There's too many. I have too many Slacks there. Which competitor and sector antennas would you recommend? I don't know. It depends on each one. I don't have a specific recommendation for that. I like CLA. I work in a data center. I'm assuming DC data center. I know how MikroTik fails frequently. Devices just freeze and need reboots. Yes. Welcome to the world of needs reboots. The biggest thing, honestly, is a true controller independent model other than captive portal, etc. UniFi pushes how to configure the AP. It behaves independently with no coordination, so no AP steer. We'll have to do a deep dive on this. This is I've done 802.11r video, but we should probably go through as an updated one, because then I can just refer back to an updated 802.1r video, walk through roaming and how it works on different models. There is some interesting things that different people do with different the Wi-Fi on the back end on there. It's a good discussion. How the handoffs work and all that fun stuff. You know, it's funny because I have an old video on de-authing, and that is also a very big discussion. I get a lot of hate on that video. People say I shouldn't do a video about de-authing. Okay, cool. Jason just sent me something I'm going to open on how Meraki does it. So let me pull that up. Let's talk about Wi-Fi and Meraki. Where did this go? All right, client balancing prior to MR29 freeware. Information exchange. Each EP is a local database that stores the client's metrics. Both associated and not associated information is shared between each AP on the LAN via broadcast messages with encrypted payload. Note this message encryption is dynamically configured and secured by the Meraki cloud. APs on the same LAN segment will automatically learn the information needed to make client balancing decisions. This feature was designed for nearby IPs, which typically reside on the same LAN. I really feel like UniFi actually has something that they're doing on this. I don't think that UniFi has, let's see. Can I find documentation on it though? So let's see. I'll have to look up to see if I know where the documentation is. I see it here for how Meraki does it, and I believe Alta has some documentation on how they do it. Let me try and look up, see if I can find it in there. So much to read here. I'm trying to find it from, if someone has the link, you can send it to me. It's a full-blown Wi-Fi fight here. Let's see. It wasn't 4 years ago. Share this tab. So do they support 8021V? I'm not seeing it. At least it's not in this forum post, but this forum post is from 5 years ago. It's funny because there's people showing the 802.R test client K and V. Oh, here's a. I kind of like the way. Maybe we'll have to investigate this. Let's see. Hey, Tom, releasing some videos. Set up Greylog, begin sending log shrimp from a UniFi control PF Sense. It has helped me fix some ongoing problem. Awesome. I'm glad Greylog was helpful. Manual chain. Okay, you guys are arguing about that part there. And Jason has a good point. If you do it all manually, things change. But now I have a Wireshark thing I want to dig into here. Beacon of Wi-Fi networks not supporting. This is interesting. Maybe I'll do a packet capture right on the here to determine if the network has this specific thing. This is the beacon for a Wi-Fi network. Because I don't find the answer. UniFi does not have documentation of whether or not they support the V. My pages still have links to Google+. What pages? What pages have links to Google+? I like the argument you started. I think this is a good debate you started here, Jason. I told you, me and Jason, we need to have we need to do the Meraki debate on this. So I think Jason's right on especially the auto tuning features. So now, and I'm going to try and hunt down whether or not I can find whether or not the UniFi APs support the 8021V. I can now dig into that a little further. Hey, all, happy Thursday. But this is what we do as technicians. We toss around an idea, we throw facts at it. We're talking about what standards are supported, and then we determine whether or not it's the right solution. These are important things you need to have. Bard said it supports 802. Oh, you asked Bard? We can't ask AI if things work properly. Do you have any advice setting up a point-to-point 40 gig connection between Linux desktop and a NAS? Point-to-point, like wireless 40 gig? I don't understand the question very well. I mean, you want to use SFPs bonded together, like 4 SFPs? I guess I need more clarification on that. Think a warehouse or school where things really controlled environment. You can manage it, trying to do it in a hospital with patient monitors and phones on Wi-Fi. It does. This comes back to some of the use cases for some of these things. I use cases, or more specifically, the environment that's driving the product that fits the environment. We were talking about, do you need shielded cables everywhere last week? And I said, well, it's not needed all the time. And a person says, oh, I always have to use them because I put wiring in around x-ray machines. I'm like, well, I don't have an x-ray machine at my house. So at my house, I don't really care as much about the shielded cable. I mean, it's better to use it, but I wouldn't say it's a must have. But if your job says, hey, I'm going to work in a room full of x-ray machines all the time, shielded cables seem like a better idea. I have a client that has 11% packet loss for VoIP. Provider says it's local network issue. Firewall has any on the phone server, an idea how to troubleshoot it. Set up pings on each thing. I mean, do you have a separate network for the phones? Set up a ping on that network and see if you're dropping. There's free, I think Smoke Ping's free. There's tools out there you can monitor ping times and determine if there's some drops going on. Ping Plotter, that's the other one. Well, there's one more I haven't heard of in a while. Let's see if I think I still have an instance running somewhere. Uptime Kuma will ping things and give you that, but Uptime Kuma doesn't give you a short enough ping time, I think. So Ping Plotter might look better. Server Monitor. I've done forgot the password for this, I think. I'll just pull up the website for it because I had one set up. I turned it back on, but I don't remember the password. For some reason, it's not in there. This is a really cool project, though. It's open source. PHP Server Monitor. It'll monitor a bunch of different things and send you notices. I think they have a website for it. Yeah. Let me see if they have a demo. Yeah, PHP Server Monitor. This is another one you can set up. It's pretty slick. It's got really low requirements. You can also tie it to like pushover notifications. It'll give you charts and graphs of latency, history of outage. So these are all the tools you end up using to, these are free tools, I should say, that will help you trace things out like that. Going from 2x, Tom, to 1x is jarring. Yes, it is. PRTG. Does PRTG have a free version still? The password. The password, forget about it. Yep. I haven't logged into it. I realized I had it. I went, I was like, oh, I can turn that on. Oh, I don't remember the login. I know where it is if I wanted to dig for it, but I don't want to dig for it. I'll just show you. This is a neat tool you can use that will give you these things. It's open source. It's free. I'll drop the link right here because I got a few minutes before I got to wind this down. I'm only going for about 10 more minutes here. But phpservermonitor.org, definitely easy one to find. Tracking latency impacts across your networks. Nav.unit. Okay. The password forgot. Well, no, it's saved in Bitwarden. That's the thing. It's not saved under the URL I have accessed it. I got to remember what I called it in order to find it. Yeah, pfSense. I have a whole video on that. So I'll just say I have a video on pfSense and tracking WAN quality. So that's natively built into pfSense. It does that out of the box. So yes, it's nothing you have to load. Though I have a video on it. If you type in like WAN monitor, you'll probably find my video on it. pfSense has documentation on it, and I did a video on how to set it up and how to monitor it. Yeah, Zabbix works for monitoring. I have a client with Synology Surveillance Station. Notice issues with syncing between the station and the cams. All are set to sync with Synology, but cams are off by an hour. Any ideas? I'm using, I guess it depends on the cameras. Obviously, the Synology camera syncs perfectly. The Amcrest ones, I have, I think, one Reolink and 5 more Amcrests, and they all sync fine. So I haven't run into that issue, but I have seen, especially some of the, maybe a firmware problem. I've seen cameras drift, which doesn't make any sense to me, especially when they're supposedly syncing the time. Some cameras, the lower quality cameras have the lower quality problems is one of the things I would say. Look for firmware updates, make sure it's got the correct time server in there and that the time server is working properly. Oh, that could be it. TZ data out of date. But if it's one of those like really, off-brand cameras, getting an update can be part of that. Because I read that right, that you have a camera that's wandering off for an hour. If it's consistently 1 hour out of date, you've got just bad time zone data. Or that, yes, right here. So it's not. It's always. There's a difference between wandering or exactly 1 hour, and that's going to be the time zone wrong somewhere. Hey, Tom, I think you remember you saying you use Ninja RMM in your environment. Have you noticed a large number of failed auto patch deployments lately, especially for Office apps? This question, you go over to Reddit RMSP. Someone asked this about a week ago. There's an answer for it. I forgot what the answer is. But there's a forum post in my forums. If you go into my forums and type in Ninja One, you'll see a recent forum post and an answer for it. There's some switch that you have to hit and to make Microsoft do a thing. Microsoft screwed up some updates. Doing the last network in my home. Any advice for Cat 6 cabling? Use Cat 6 cabling. I don't know what the advice you're looking for is. The only cameras I've not seen time issues being synced directly is the Sino NTP is when our Synology cameras, because all settings are done with Synology. Yeah, that's one thing. The Synology cameras are dead simple because they're all done completely with the Synology. I'll throw that in there. Let's see. I think I could pull up to this Synology one. I did this when I reviewed the camera. But one of the things I want to point out here, share this tab instead, go to the cameras. If you're using a Synology cameras, you don't have to log into the camera and everything because it's all done right here. So anything I set in the camera, you just change the setting here and it pushes everything right into the camera. You don't have to do anything special when you're doing it. It's all done right inside of here. I covered that in my video. So Travis is very right. Like if you go with the Synology cameras combined with the Synology surveillance station, they just work. Like they work really well. Plus they do the little people recognition and stuff like that. So you can track through them. The Synology cameras work great with the Synology surveillance station. Like they obviously because they're made by Synology, you're going to get that integrated experience on them that's going to work really well. What switches should I be using? Also looks like I should be using Synology for my cam solution. I mean, any PoE switch will work when it comes to Synology. There's nothing special about the PoE switches. I mean, get a quality one. The Cisco small business one, I think works fine with the Synology cameras. We set some of those up on there. Cisco makes a quality product, and if you don't care about like the ease of use of the UI being a little quirky because it's Cisco, but it functionally it was great. And I trust Cisco and their power budget to be accurate and the switch itself to last quite a while. Anyone using the nifty app Network Chuck just featured? You know, it's funny because Nifty's been around for a little while, and thought it was cool that Network Chuck did a video and brought them up because it's certainly going to make them a lot more popular. They were looking to buy. They reached out to me a while ago. I thought it was novel, but I didn't take it on as a sponsor. But hey, they got all the way to Network Chuck and got a sponsored video, and he's definitely someone who's got more reach than me when it comes to getting some of that stuff out there. So yeah, it looks really cool, and I'll bring it up in case someone isn't familiar with the way Nifty works. Say, so this is. Let me find their website because the problem they also have is there's actually a bunch of other things with the same stupid name. Let's see if this is the right one. Nope. It's funny that a Google search you can't find it. I thought their name was bad, and I think that's part of the problem with it. I'd actually probably have to look to link in Network Chuck's video. It's a neat tool. I definitely think it's great. I just think it has a terrible name because Googling the name finds like all these other companies that have copied the name. Let me find his little. There we go. It's ntfy.sh. So let me throw that up here. Push notifications made easy. They reached out to me for a while, like I said a while ago, but it's just like I was like, well, it looks neat, but I'm kind of limit who I take on as sponsors. So I didn't take them on as a sponsor, and that was a few months ago, and now they got Network Chuck doing a sponsored video, which is great. Like I said, it gonna bring them, but man, having something called or NTFY, I was calling it Nifty. It's Notify, like NTFY. So I was spelling it wrong. But if you just search for it, you find something else. How can I set permissions? A data set I have full control or use be able to read and write files, but not be able to delete such files. Well, if they had read write permission, they're going to have delete permission. So no. And you've asked this question before, and it was answered before. Matter of fact, you posted it on several of my videos. So I'll just mute your. If you keep asking it, it's probably best to post in the TrueNAS forums is your best way to get a better, more concise answer on that. So hopefully that makes sense. All right. I will wind this down and leave you with this. So go ahead and check out if you're interested in this. I'll pull it up one more time. Network Chuck did a video on it. It's Network Chuck's latest video. So if you're looking for a neat push notification system that you can integrate into Linux, that's what this is. Pretty neat. I guess push notifications have their place. It's kind of a neat service. I don't have a direct use case for it in my head right now, but the fact that it's easy to integrate, and I think their pricing was really reasonable on here for sending the push notifications. $5 a month for 2,500 daily messages. So that's not bad. 50 daily emails, 3 phone calls, 20,000 messages for $10. But this is if you prepay annually. It's only $1 more if you do monthly. So neat looking system. All right. Any more comments? Have we reached the end of them all? I'm all caught up. I think answered as many questions as possible. I have videos on some of these other topics. I have videos on the Synology surveillance station. So if you want to dive further into that or some of the other questions people asked, I'm going to get further along and dig into this 8021V to confirm whether or not there is any support with UniFi for this, because I think it's going to be a fun topic. Me and Jason will be doing a review more in depth on the Meraki versus UniFi and talk about some of those features, what is or is not supported. Once I have all that ready, that's when I'll do the review video on that. I think we got a couple Merakis at the office I can borrow somewhere. And yeah. This is their biggest competitor's pushover, which is $5 one time. That's why I said it's not. I looked at it and I don't think it's got a self-hosted option. I never really dug into it though, because the problem with self-hosting push notifications is how do you get the notifications where you want them to go? I didn't really dig much into it. I didn't take them on as a sponsor. So I never really dug deep into that particular thing. Make sure there's a fight graphic. It's not a fight. This is a good, intelligent discussion. I don't have, just opinion-based discussions. This will be something brought up about facts. This is that video I did just the other day about the stupid Cisco end of life, because it started with, hey, we think Cisco on the small business line has a shorter lifespan. Well, it turns out Cisco made a global policy change. And this is where, I pulled back with the Wayback Web Machine and showed here's Cisco. You aren't remembering wrong. Cisco did on their older product line have a much longer policy for the end of life from when they would do end of sale. And they've now shortened that greatly. Now, someone pointed out to me that some models that Cisco has, even though they were sold under the new policy, they have a longer, they've still continued to support them. And yeah, Cisco can do at their leisure, at their discretion, not leisure, at their discretion, a out of band update for something. Will they? I don't know. That's kind of a them question, but they're not obligated to based on their own policy. And if they stop supporting something, they're going to gesture the terms and conditions under which you bought that device under their current policy. So that's where it really comes down to. But nonetheless, yeah, a good intelligent discussion with fatality and flawless victory graphics. So I'm not saying we can't make it fun. You know, I really like a good debate that is won by facts, and then you can still gloat over it. You can still, do the little I won dance. It doesn't mean you can't be happy about the outcome, but the debate should be very like, hey, these are the features. This is the, you know, some very clear evidence that is objectively true about the features of a device. I think that's fun. Yes. And me and Jason work together. So far, me and Jason have not had any type of. I can tell when we have discussions, it's fun because Jason's like, "All right, I have an opinion on this. I need to know." He's prepared. If I were to object to the way we were going to change something, he was prepared. But we just haven't had a time where me and him weren't aligned. There might be nuanced difference, but like me and Jason have been aligned on things. I need to do a video because tomorrow marks two months since we merged, and me and Jason haven't had a fight yet. So we kind of thought a lot alike, and I think we still do. So I think it's been kind of fun working together because we haven't had any major like this or that disagreement. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But that's our next video, Jason. That maybe I'll go come on business technicalities and we'll do a video 2 months after the merger, which Jason's just now coming out of the fog that is sorting out the billing. Because Jason was like, Tom, I don't understand your billing. And I'm like, hey, Tom doesn't understand his billing sometimes either. So how are we going to solve this? And Jason's done a great job of bringing order to the chaos that I brought to the table. So Jason has organized it. He's put it in very concise ways. So it's been fun. Almost there. Yeah, he's been in the cocoon of billing, I think is the way he's referred to it. There's a lot you have to do. This is why we merged. So it's, putting it all together. A bunch of smart people got together and we're a better company for it. So over at CNWR. So it's definitely been a lot of fun. So, DynaFi. Do you know DynaFi Firewall? Yes. DynaFi copied OpenSense and slapped their name on it. I don't think they made any major code changes from OpenSense. So DynaFi is OpenSense with different branding. Best I can tell. If someone thinks I'm wrong about that, let me know. I don't know that it's a competitor. They just copy the code from OpenSense. Now, the question would be is how much code do they copy? Can they support that? Can they keep it fresh and up to date? I don't know. Anyone can fork a project. It's not about forking a project. It's about maintaining the project you forked. That I don't know. I can't really speak to it. So building agreements. Oh, me and Jason are going to do some software talks pretty soon too. We're going to break down all the software used now at CNWR. There's a long freaking list of this stuff. There's the software we used. There's some things that get canceled out. Freshdesk is now dead. Long live Freshdesk, and it's gone, which is fine. I always told people I never loved Freshdesk. It's just the solution I used at the time. So everything has now been automated and then the whole ConnectWise manage. We use Roost a lot. That's a fun discussion. So that's there's so many things that we need to talk about regarding that. So leave your questions and thoughts down below. I'm going to bump off here because I have a few more things to do, and then I got to drive. My son got a job, so I got to drive him to work. So there's that's why I had to do the vlog now because I've got too many things scheduled for later. All right. Anything else? Yeah, those Omada things are huge. So, all right. Have fun, everyone, and talk to you later.